Did you know that one single can of soup from your pantry could contain more salt than your body should have in an entire day? Or that a can of fruit that looks innocent and sweet may actually spike your blood sugar higher than eating a donut? For many of us, over 60 canned foods are a daily convenience. They're affordable, easy to store, and save us the hassle of cooking from scratch every single day. But here's the hidden truth. Some of these cans, the ones sitting quietly on your kitchen shelves, may be silently raising your blood pressure, straining your kidneys, or even affecting your memory. As we get older, our bodies change. What we could eat at 40 or 50 without a problem can become harmful at 60, 70, or beyond. High sodium levels can push our blood pressure into dangerous zones. Excess sugar in canned fruits can worsen diabetes. And preservatives or chemicals used to keep food fresh in a can may trigger inflammation in our joints and brain. That's why today's video is so important. This isn't about scaring you, and it's not about telling you to throw away every single can in your kitchen. It's about giving you the knowledge and the power to make better choices, so that the convenience of canned foods doesn't come at the cost of your long-term health. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to reveal the 7 canned foods you should avoid at all costs, because the risks are just too great. But I'll also show you 2 canned options that are not only safe but can actually be part of a healthy diet, even after 60. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which cans to skip when shopping, how to spot the red flags on food labels, and which ones you can keep in your kitchen without worry. These small choices can make a big difference in your heart health, your energy, and even how sharp your memory stays. So, if you've ever looked at the shelves in the supermarket and wondered, which of these cans are really safe for me, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and start with the first canned food you should absolutely avoid. Now that we've set the stage, let's talk about why canned foods can be especially risky for seniors. Because it's not just about what's inside the can, it's also about how our bodies change as we age. As we cross into our 60s and beyond, our bodies don't process food the way they used to. Think about it: when you were younger, you could eat a salty snack or a sugary dessert and bounce back quickly. But now, even small amounts of extra salt can make your ankles swell, or too much sugar can leave you feeling sluggish for hours. Here's why. Kidneys naturally become less efficient with age. That means they struggle to filter out excess sodium, and when sodium builds up in the bloodstream, it raises blood pressure, which in turn increases the risk of strokes and heart attacks. Blood vessels also lose some of their flexibility over time. So when your diet is overloaded with salt or preservatives, your arteries have to work harder, and that adds strain to your heart. And let's not forget digestion. Older adults often produce less stomach acid, which makes breaking down preservatives and additives more difficult. The result? More bloating, indigestion, and sometimes even nutrient malabsorption. Now let's pull back the curtain on the cans themselves. What makes many canned foods unhealthy isn't just the food inside, it's also how that food is preserved to last for months, sometimes years. Excess sodium. Many canned foods rely heavily on salt to preserve flavor and extend shelf life. But here's the problem. A single serving can contain more sodium than an older adult should have in an entire day. Too much sodium doesn't just raise blood pressure, it also causes water retention, which can make arthritis flare-ups worse and increase swelling in the legs and ankles. Hidden sugars. Canned fruits, canned pasta, even some canned vegetables often come loaded with sugar. Why? Because sugar makes food shelf-stable and appealing to taste. But for seniors, excess sugar can spike blood glucose levels, worsen insulin resistance, and contribute to fatigue and brain fog. Preservatives and additives. Ingredients like nitrates, and artificial flavor enhancers are common in canned meats and soups. Research has linked these additives to increased cancer risk and digestive issues. For older adults with sensitive stomachs, they can also trigger acid reflux or irritable bowel symptoms. BPA, bisphenol A. This is a chemical often found in the lining of cans. While many brands are moving toward BPA-free packaging, it's still present in some. Studies show BPA can mimic estrogen in the body and may be linked to memory issues, hormone imbalance, and even increased risk of certain cancers. Seniors are more vulnerable because our detox systems, the liver and kidneys, aren't as efficient as they once were. The bigger picture: convenience versus longevity. It's easy to see why canned foods are tempting. They're inexpensive, quick to prepare, and they last for years in the pantry. But here's the real trade-off: convenience today may cost you quality of life tomorrow. Think about it. High blood pressure, diabetes complications, joint inflammation, these don't just happen overnight. They build slowly, meal after meal, can after can. And before you know it, you're facing issues that could have been prevented with just a few smarter food choices. The good news, once you understand the risks, you can take control. You don't have to give up every can, you just need to know which ones to avoid, and which ones can actually support your health. So now that you understand why canned foods can be risky, especially after 60, let's get practical. In the next section, I'll reveal the 7 specific canned foods you should avoid at all costs, because the health risks are simply too great. And as we go, I'll also give you healthier, safer alternatives you can turn to instead. Alright, now that we've explored why canned foods can be a hidden danger for seniors, let's get specific. Here are 7 canned foods you should avoid at all costs, and I'll explain exactly why, along with what you can use instead. Let's start with one of the biggest offenders, canned soups. They're quick, comforting, and often marketed as healthy. But here's the reality. Many canned soups are salt bombs in disguise. A single can of chicken noodle soup can have over 900 milligrams of sodium. That's nearly half the recommended daily amount for an older adult in just one meal. If you eat the whole can, you could easily surpass your daily sodium needs in one sitting. For seniors, this is especially dangerous. High sodium doesn't just raise blood pressure. It can also lead to dehydration, kidney strain, and swelling in the legs and feet. Better choice? Homemade soups using fresh or frozen vegetables, or look for brands that say low sodiums or no salt added. Always check the label before tossing a can in your cart. Vegetables are supposed to be healthy, right? But when it comes to canned veggies, the problem isn't the vegetable, it's what's floating around it. Many canned vegetables are packed in brine, a salty liquid that helps preserve color and flavor. The result? A single half-cup serving can hold more sodium than you realize, sometimes 300 to 400 milligrams. That might not sound like much, but stack it across a few meals and your sodium intake skyrockets. And here's the other problem, that brine can also strip away water-soluble vitamins like vitamin C, meaning you're left with fewer nutrients and more salt. Better choice? Buy frozen vegetables. They're often just as nutritious as fresh and don't contain added salt. Or if canned is your only option, look specifically for no salt added, and rinse the vegetables under cold water before eating. That simple step can remove up to 40% of the sodium. Now let's talk about one of the most concerning categories, canned meats. Spam, corned beef, Vienna sausages, they might be convenient and protein-packed, but they're also loaded with health risks. First, they're extremely high in saturated fat. Eating these regularly can raise bad cholesterol, clog arteries, and increase the risk of heart disease. Second, they're full of preservatives like nitrates and nitrites. Research has linked these chemicals to an increased risk of colon cancer and other chronic illnesses. For older adults, this combination is especially harmful. Your heart and blood vessels already work harder with age, and adding these heavily processed meats only increases the strain. Better choice? Fresh lean meats like chicken breast or turkey, or plant-based proteins like beans and lentils. Even cooking a small batch of meat and freezing it in portions can give you the same convenience without the added chemicals. Canned fruits can seem like a healthy dessert option. After all, it's fruit, right? But the truth is, many canned fruits are packed in what the label calls heavy syrup. That syrup is basically liquid sugar. 1 cup of canned peaches in heavy syrup can contain over 30 grams of sugar, the same as drinking a can of soda. For older adults, that's a recipe for trouble, blood sugar spikes, weight gain, and a higher risk of diabetes complications. And here's something many don't realize, all that syrup can also weaken your immune system over time, because excess sugar triggers chronic inflammation in the body. Better choice? Look for fruits canned in 100% fruit juice or water. Or better yet, enjoy fresh fruit in season. If you only have syrup-packed fruit, rinse it under water before eating to remove some of the excess sugar. These foods might remind you of childhood comfort, but for seniors, they're one of the worst options on the shelf. Why? Because they combine the worst of both worlds: refined carbs and excessive sodium. 1 can of canned ravioli can deliver over 1,000 milligrams of sodium, along with sugar, saturated fats, and almost no fiber. The result? Blood sugar spikes, bloating, and very little nutritional benefit. Over time, these foods can contribute to weight gain, high cholesterol, and even greater risk of heart disease. Better choice? Cook whole grain pasta at home and add your own tomato sauce, or use canned tomatoes, the safe kind I'll mention later, to make a nutritious sauce. You'll get the flavor without the additives. Canned chili and stews are another big culprit. They seem hearty and filling, but they're often made with cheap cuts of meat, extra salt, and even trans fats. For seniors, this is a triple threat. The high sodium raises blood pressure, the saturated fat raises cholesterol, and the additives like MSG or flavor enhancers can cause digestive upset. On top of that, many canned chilies are high in purines, which can trigger painful gout flare-ups. Better choice? Make your own chili at home using fresh beans, vegetables, and lean turkey or chicken. You'll control the salt, the fat, and the flavor, and your body will thank you for it. Now here's a tricky one. Fish is generally healthy, but canned fish in oil comes with risks you need to know. When fish is packed in oil, that oil often oxidizes over time, creating harmful compounds that can stress your heart. On top of that, oil-packed versions are calorie-dense, which can lead to weight gain if you're not careful. Tuna is another concern, not because of the oil but because of mercury buildup. Seniors who eat too much canned tuna may unknowingly expose themselves to mercury, which can affect memory, balance, and even kidney function. Better choice? Choose fish packed in water, not oil. Or buy fresh or frozen salmon, sardines, or mackerel. These give you all the omega-3 benefits without the added risks. So those are the 7 canned foods you should really avoid. Not because you need to live in fear of every can, but because these particular ones bring more harm than good, especially for older adults. But here's the good news, not every can is bad. In fact, there are a couple of canned foods that can actually support your health and make cooking easier. Let's talk about those next. Now, after hearing about all the cans you should avoid, you might be wondering, do I have to give up canned foods completely? The answer is no. While many canned products are loaded with salt, sugar, or preservatives, there are actually a few that can be not just safe but genuinely beneficial, especially for older adults. Let's take a closer look at 2 canned foods you can confidently keep in your pantry. First on the safe list is one of the most underrated health foods for seniors: canned beans. Now you might be thinking, aren't beans just a cheap side dish? But here's the truth: beans are nutritional powerhouses. They're high in fiber, which is something most adults over 60 simply don't get enough of. Fiber helps keep digestion regular, reduces constipation, and lowers cholesterol naturally. That's right, something as simple as beans can support heart health just as effectively as expensive supplements. They're also an excellent source of plant-based protein. For seniors who may not eat as much meat anymore, whether due to cost, chewing difficulties, or digestion issues, beans offer a gentle, filling alternative that keeps muscles strong. Here's the important detail. You want to choose no salt-added beans. Regular canned beans often sit in salty liquid, but the no-salt versions remove that problem. And even if you only find regular beans, you can simply pour them into a colander, rinse under cold water for 30 seconds, and wash away nearly 40% of the sodium. So why are beans especially good for seniors? The magnesium supports bone strength. The potassium balances blood pressure. And the slow-digesting carbs help prevent blood sugar spikes, making them diabetic-friendly. How to use them? Add beans to salads, soups, or even mash them into spreads. You don't need to cook them for hours. They're ready to go right out of the can, making them one of the most convenient and healthiest canned foods you can eat. Second on the safe list might surprise you: canned tomatoes. Now, many people assume fresh tomatoes are always better. And while fresh is wonderful, here's a fascinating fact: the canning process actually boosts the nutrient called lycopene. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant that gives tomatoes their red color, and it's been linked to a lower risk of heart disease, prostate cancer, and even improved memory and brain function. For seniors, lycopene is especially important because it helps reduce inflammation in the body. And inflammation is at the root of many age-related conditions: arthritis, high blood pressure, even cognitive decline. But, and this is important, not all canned tomatoes are created equal. Some brands add extra salt or pack them in sauces that contain sugar. You want to look specifically for no salt added and ideally BPA-free cans. BPA is the chemical lining used in some cans that can seep into acidic foods like tomatoes. Many brands now use BPA-free linings, so check the label. What makes canned tomatoes so convenient is their versatility. You can turn them into homemade pasta sauce, blend them into soups, or use them as a base for chili and stews. Instead of relying on salty canned soups or pasta meals, you can build your own healthier version with canned tomatoes as the foundation. So while many canned foods are traps for seniors' health, tomatoes are one of the rare examples where canning actually improves the nutritional profile. So here's the big takeaway: canned foods don't have to be the enemy. The key is knowing the difference between those that quietly damage your health and those that can actually protect it. By keeping canned beans and canned tomatoes in your pantry, you give yourself affordable, nutrient-dense staples that support your heart, digestion, and overall well-being. And the best part? They're just as convenient as the unhealthy options, without the long-term risks. Now that we've covered the safe choices, let's get even more practical. In the next section, I'll show you exactly how to shop smart, read labels like a detective, and avoid getting tricked by food marketing. These little skills will help you walk into any supermarket and walk out with confidence. Now, it's one thing to know which cans are harmful and which are safe, but when you're standing in the grocery store staring at dozens of cans with shiny labels and fancy claims, it's not always easy to tell the difference. That's why this next part is so important: learning how to shop smart and read labels like a detective. Because once you know what to look for, the marketing tricks won't fool you anymore. When you pick up a can, the very first place your eyes should go is the nutrition facts label. Here are 3 key numbers to focus on: sodium. This is the big one. For older adults, you want to aim for no more than 1,500 milligrams per day. That means ideally a single serving should have less than 140 milligrams to be considered low sodium. Anything over 400 milligrams per serving is a red flag. Added sugars. Look for lines that say includes the number of grams in added sugars. Many canned fruits, sauces, and beans hide unnecessary sugar. If you see 10 grams or more in a single serving, put it back. Serving size. This one is tricky because companies often make the serving size unrealistically small. For example, a soup label may say 1 cup as a serving size, but the can contains 2.5 servings. If you eat the whole can, you're actually getting 2.5 times the sodium and sugar listed. Always multiply by the number of servings. Don't get fooled by the front of the can. Here's a truth the food industry doesn't want you to know: the front of the can is marketing, not health information. Words like heart healthy, low fat, or made with real fruits can sound comforting, but they don't tell you the whole story. For example, a can of fruit might say made with real fruits, but if it's sitting in heavy syrup, it's swimming in sugar. A soup might say low fat but still have a massive sodium load. That's why you should always flip the can around and rely on the nutrition facts panel and ingredient list, not the sales pitch on the front. The ingredient list is where the truth really hides. A good rule of thumb: the fewer ingredients, the better. Here's what to watch for. Avoid sodium nitrate, nitrite, MSG, artificial flavor enhancers, and words you can't pronounce. These are usually preservatives or additives your body doesn't need. Sugar disguises. Companies often hide sugar under names like corn syrup, fructose, or maltose. If you see more than one of these in the first few ingredients, it's a bad sign. Look for simple ingredients you recognize. For example, a can of beans should just say beans, water, salt. Even better, beans, water, with no added salt. Canned foods are often lined with a chemical called BPA, bisphenol A. As I mentioned earlier, BPA can mimic hormones in the body and is linked to memory issues, cancer risks, and hormone imbalance. Acidic foods like tomatoes are especially prone to leaching BPA into the food. So when shopping, look for cans that specifically say BPA-free on the label. Not every brand offers this, but more and more are making the switch. It's a small detail that can make a big difference for long-term health. Now let's make this really practical. Here are some strategies to make grocery shopping less overwhelming. Bring a magnifying glass or reading glasses. The print on labels is small, and companies count on people skipping over it. Having the right tools helps you stay in control. Shop the store perimeter first. Fresh produce, dairy, and meats are usually around the outside aisles. Canned goods are in the center, so by the time you get there, you'll already have healthy staples in your cart. Compare brands side by side. Don't just grab the cheapest or the most familiar. Hold 2 cans together, compare sodium, sugar, and ingredients, and pick the better one. Build a safe list. Once you find a brand of canned beans or tomatoes you like that fits your health needs, write it down. That way, each trip to the store becomes easier and faster. I want you to think of food labels not as something annoying but as a tool like reading a map. Every minute you spend checking a label is an investment in your health, your energy, and your independence. Because here's the truth. Small choices today, like swapping a high-sodium soup for a no-salt bean soup, can prevent big health problems tomorrow. Reading labels isn't just about food, it's about protecting your future. So the next time you're at the grocery store, remember, don't trust the front of the can. Trust the label, trust the ingredients, and trust yourself to make the smarter choice. And now that you know how to shop smart, let's talk about what to do if you're already dealing with health conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or digestive issues. In the next section, we'll cover when it's time to talk to your doctor or dietitian and why being proactive matters so much. So let's take a moment to recap. We've uncovered the hidden dangers lurking in common canned foods: soups, salty vegetables, processed meats, sugary fruits, pasta meals, chili and oil-packed fish. We've also discovered two safe and powerful options: canned beans and canned tomatoes, that can actually help protect your health. And we've learned how to shop smarter by reading labels like a detective, so you're never fooled by marketing tricks again. Now, I want to be clear, this video isn't about fear and it's not about perfection. None of us can eat perfectly all the time, and you don't need to. What matters most is progress, not perfection. If you swap out even one or two of the harmful cans in your pantry for healthier choices, you've already taken a huge step toward lowering your blood pressure, protecting your heart, and keeping your energy strong. Think about it this way: every smart food choice you make is a small gift to your future self. You're not just eating for today, you're eating to protect your independence, your mobility, and your quality of life for years to come. I know it's not always easy. We live in a world where unhealthy food is convenient and heavily marketed, but the fact that you're here watching this video means you're already committed to your health, and that commitment is powerful. Remember, aging well isn't about looking younger, it's about feeling stronger, sharper, and more in control of your body. And that begins with the small daily choices in your kitchen. So here's what I'd love you to do next. Go check your pantry today. Take just 5 minutes and look at the labels on the cans you already own. You might be surprised at what you find. Decide on one simple swap you can make this week, maybe replacing salty canned soup with homemade, or switching syrupy peaches for fresh fruit. And if this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend or family member. You never know whose health you might improve just by sharing this information. I'll leave you with this thought: growing older is a privilege, but living well as you grow older is a choice. The foods you eat, even something as small as a can of beans or tomatoes, can either build you up or quietly wear you down. So choose wisely, stay strong, and remember, your best years can still be ahead of you if you take care of yourself today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.